Tyler, welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Apologies for all the back and forth and my time zone issues and conflicts in the calendar and all that kind of thing, but it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, excited to be on here. I've always wanted to be on this podcast, so this
There
is
you
this is a
go. We
big
made
deal
it
for me.
happen. It's taken longer
Made
than
it
it should have
happen.
done, trust me. But it's great to get you on, mate. Anyone who doesn't know who you are, would you mind just standard podcast form? Give us a bit of a brief bio, how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah, Tyler Lesher. I am currently the UCLA men's basketball head athletic trainer for just the basketball team and the men's golf team. Been here for 4 years. Prior to this, I was at FAU with their men's basketball team for 1 year, and before that, spent 4 years with the Hornets, working both G League and the NBA teams, kind of doing a dual capacity role as an athletic trainer and a strength coach. And then before that, was did my internship year with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that was really cool. Obviously, since working with guys like LeBron and seeing how really like the best do it, guys like Mike Mancias, who I idolize, and what he does every day with LeBron. So being able to see that, kind of formulate my own philosophy was kind of how I got my built my own philosophy and everything. So um, that was my professional background. Did my undergrad in New Mexico State in athletic training, master's at Chico State, a small little Division II, up in California. I did that because it was the only spot that I could go to and actually work with a men's basketball team as a GA. So decided I'd go down the Division II level. It was an incredible experience. Um, and then got my master's in kinesiology with that. So really focused on strength and conditioning at that time. And then got my doctorate through Cal Penn, who actually has a new name. I don't even know what the name of the university is now, but my focus on that was mainly uh, leadership and really gut health, to be honest. So that's what my main project was focused on gut health for that. So that was a quick little wrap down of
Absolutely.
my background.
And it's a good job because that's one of the main focuses of this conversation, which I'm excited to get into because it's something that we haven't discussed in the podcast before. So it'll be
Sweet.
a new angle for us. Um, what's the state of athletic training in the US?
Down, man. I'm not gonna lie, like it's going down. Um, it's just we're seeing jobs really get taken from us. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's just our fault because I think a lot of it is our fault. I think a lot of athletic trainers have really lost their passion for the job, and it's pretty much because we don't get adequate pay. If you look at the pay across the board, it's significantly lower than a lot of the strength coaches and some of the other coaching roles. But I think a big chunk of it is because, like, we don't have that consistent drive. When you come out of school and you're like, I'm so hungry to learn, I'm going to go out and get every certification. And then you realize, like, I'm working as a secondary school athletic trainer or something, and I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting my CEUs, like, and I'm not getting rewarded in any which way. If I do go out and do all these things, um, and it's really easy to get complacent in this job and or in this profession, and I think it's happening more and more. And for example, we just saw our U.S. military, our Army, just got rid of athletic
Saw this.
trainers, and it's so unfortunate to see. And I don't know if there's a way that we can, like, quote unquote, combat it. Is it because um we're doing the wrong things? Is it because we can pay? What they did was they're replacing us with strength coaches, which is taking out apples and putting in oranges. Like, strength coaches are incredible. I'm a strength coach. I Everything I do is based on my strength and conditioning philosophy. But we're not interchangeable between athletic training and strength and conditioning. So it's really interesting to see how in all these different levels, athletic trainers are just slowly kind of getting dwindled down, and we're starting to get replaced by physical therapists. And if really a physical therapy or physical therapists ever have more like sideline management training, more emergency management training, I don't know if there's a role for athletic trainers in the world, to be honest. It's just that's what is kind of our like our initial skill set is being able to identify injuries quickly, start the rehab process or start the injury management process, versus obviously physical therapists more kind of on that rehab side. Um, if they get that clinical care component of initial management, they're all doctors. They all have their DPTs. They're all incredibly trained. They're all smart as hell. And, I just don't know what our role is anymore. So, it's interesting. Athletic trainers are going down, and I'm very vocal on it. Like I'm very outspoken that we all have to do something to kind of save this profession because if not, there's it's really hard for me to tell a kid who wants to be an athletic trainer to stay in athletic training and not be a dual certified ATPT, because it's just better for them in the long run to do that
So
versus just staying an athletic trainer.
traditionally in a sporting environment, someone gets injured, the AT would take them straight away. Then it would become a
Correct.
PT thing. Then it would become an S&C thing. That's the kind of
Yep.
traditional flow. Okay,
Yep.
understood.
Absolutely.
Yep, yep. Okay,
Absolutely.
interesting. I saw that on the military thing. I didn't quite understand what was going on, but yeah, to replace them with S&C coaches, interesting.
It's just it's a different thought. I know, like, I don't know a lot about the military and like how they operate within that. I just know that you're replacing apples with oranges.
Yeah,
It doesn't make sense. But for them to want to keep the OTs and the PTs on board means that they still value the health. It just means they aren't valuing the skill set of the athletic trainer,
and
in my
what's an
opinion,
OT?
like an occupational therapist.
Occupational therapist. Okay.
So it's like they are valuing the healthcare of the army, but it's just they're not valuing like our specific skill set.
Yeah.
So and they think that I guess the OTs and the PTs are probably going to make up what the ATs are doing, hire more strength and conditioning coaches, work on more strength-based activities, and then, hopefully that makes a more robust athlete. But at the end of the day, it's tough to see. It's tough to sit here and watch.
Mm, interesting. One thing we spoke about when we tried this last week was, and there's something that you mentioned that I thought was interesting and would be definitely worth bringing up. I don't know if you were talking about this specific thing in terms of just ATs or our indus- various industries as a whole, PTs, ATs, S&Cs. Do you find that we are often blinded by research? And you said that. Give us a bit of a insight why you think that and what often leads to negatively.
I think that, we often look at research in two different ways, right? We have our academic people who are solely focused on like we only do academia. And then we have our clinical people who are like, look, like I know my clinical research left and right. And it's so hard to blend the two. And I think that we're all suckers for research. Um, and but we all know there's so much bias within it, and it's just like anything else. Like there's bias. It's easy to manipulate numbers. Every study that comes out, there's two to three that uh, negate that study, and then there's also two to three that support that study. And so I don't want to say we're blinded by it, but I think it's so critical for people. Um, and why it's so important to just be a clinician at the end of the day and get your hands dirty, right? Like you have to do the workouts, you have to put your athletes through the workouts, you have to do the soft tissue, and then see the response. Soft tissue therapy is not is it's just crushed by research. But I can tell you that every time I do soft tissue on my athlete, I get an incredible response. And it's like so every study that comes out, it's like it's hard for me even to look at when it comes to soft tissue because it's just crushing it. But I'm like, my athletes are getting way better from it. So it's yeah, it's I'm not gonna say we're blinded by it, but it's something that I think that we need to have our eyes open and truly understand. Like when you read a study, that it's so multifaceted. Who is funding the study? Who is pushing the study, right? And is it coming out solely to benefit them? And yeah, just it's just a we just need to have our eyes open to what that study is actually trying to accomplish, or whoever's pushing that study.
It's something that's come up a couple of times with this kind of thing. Um, Athletes feeling, athletes feedback
Hmm.
versus what happens in the research. So I think it's
Yep.
something that especially maybe younger practitioners. And I think it's easy, like you jump on Twitter or whatever it's called, and or you jump on Instagram and oh, but this you say this. We got it recently with Alex Natera and his some of the stuff that he's put out. But in this study, it says this. This is wrong. And this study it says this, and it's like, well, like you, Alex is working with athletes doing this every day.
Yep.
He's seen really good results. Study from 2012, fine, that's great. But I'm seeing it. Like there's a person in front of me getting better. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we need to be just conscious of that. And I think
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
louder that someone shouts up and they've got a following, it gets a bit of traction, and it just becomes a kind of snowball effect, and these things just gather pace, and yeah, it's dangerous sometimes.
Yeah, and it's so easy with social media now. I mean, I can put something out there and it could just snowball and it could be absolute shit,
Yep,
but it's just that's just the nature of
yep,
the world we live in now.
of course. Right, let's get into gut health because it's something like I said before,
Okay.
it's something that we haven't chatted about with anyone previously on the podcast. So when it comes to recovery, let's have a little chat around recovery, and we'll go into rehab and all that kind of stuff. Where does this fit into the conversation? We think about sleep, we think about hydration, we think about load management, but where does gut health fit into the recovery area?
It, yep. In my opinion, it's number one.
Okay.
It's more important than everything else. And everything funnels into it. Like there's gut health up top, and then below that, is the sleep, hydration, the exercise, all the things that we do for it. And the reason why is because everything that we do helps either support or it helps degrade our gut health. Like our like when it actually comes down to like our physical like gut lining, right? It either supports it or it hurts it. So, um, we have this thing called selective passage within our gut. It's like a gatekeeper function, but more or less, if you were to take your actual physical gut lining, it's about, you pluck out one hair and it's about half as thin as that hair is. Okay, so it's like it's super thin. So it's easy to break, and it's easy to let kind of what we call like toxins kind of come in and out. The goal of that gut lining is obviously to have this selective passage of only letting in uh, what we need, right? So this is where like the hydration, the nutrients, the um, water, electrolytes, everything that we need to function, right? So this is where that selective passage comes in. So on the flip side of that, it's also to prevent like the entry of like harmful substances like toxins, pathogens, alcohol, illness or like infection type material. That selective permeability is like crucial for maintaining like a healthy balance within our system. Okay, so the integrity of that like intestinal barrier is just crucial just for like our overall health, right? And if you're already going into recovery because you're injured or something like that, uh we can't recover as well as we need to because our entire body's focus is to heal our gut first. Okay. So whether it's a rehab, like a sprained ankle, or we're just recovering from, triple overtime game, something like that. If our body is working so hard to fix our gut because it's way more important than our sprained ankle, it's it's really hard to fix that ankle, right? If that makes sense. So there are a variety of things in play with that, when it comes to just dealing with um trying to deal with recovery or rehab, but mainly, if your gut health or your gut lining is blown up, right, because you just say you got injured, you go eat some fast food that night or something like that, and you have all this like inflammation running through your body has so much work to do to heal the gut and then start to work on whatever it is that, your ankle or shoulder, whatever it might be. Um, and really it's because the pathogens and toxins are triggering that immune response, which just lead to chronic inflammation and uh, this inflammation can become very chronic if the barrier remains compromised, and that chronic inflammation is very much associated with like inflammatory bowel disease, IBS, other metabolic disorders, and we're talking like long term, right? Like this is like the basis for like obesity, type 2 diabetes, uh, heart failure, things like that. It's all like the very, very base level to what lead into this. So when you're trying to like really recover, it all comes down to the gut lining and healing that gut lining. And we see it with our athletes, we see it with our everyday population, autoimmune reactions, allergies, food sensitivities. I think that the impact on mental health, the studies are now starting to support that more and more. Um, Nutrient malabsorption, like all sorts of things are really starting to affect our athletes who, we're just trying to get them to recover. But the at the end of the day, you can't you can only recover from the inside out. You can't recover from the outside in. So it's like we can have every modality in the world, but if our gut health isn't in check, like we're just fighting an uphill battle. We're not getting anything done that we actually need to, like on a significant level.
Let's rewind. And
Okay.
how do we assess whether someone's got an issue with their gut health?
Yeah, so two different ways that you can kind of take it, right? Are you working out and you're not getting where you need to, right? Like you're in the gym every day and you're not growing, you're not recovering, you're not getting what you need to, or you're injured and you're not getting where you want to be. Those are two like little things that you can just kind of look at and be like, all right, like we're checking every other box from the outside in, but like we're kind of like running into a wall. That is like one thing that like I ask all my athletes, like, what are we missing here? Because you're telling me that you're lifting every day, you're on the court every day, you're working with me every day, but we're just hitting a wall. Well, that means we're missing something, right? And then if you take a deeper dive and you start looking into the different layers of gut health, right? Are you chronically stressed? Um, are you eating foods that are inflammatory for you? There's so many different ways that like you can really look at this. And at the end of the day, the only way to know this, like truly, truly know this, is to start doing like testing for that one athlete. And this is where I think that um, the people who do it right do it incredibly right. And then like I don't want to like throw shame on dietitians and nutritionists because I think they all do an incredible job, but it's very much going beyond, hey, you need X amount of carbs, fats, and proteins. It's we need to do testing for these athletes that are specific for them, and then that way we can support them on a very excuse me, on a much higher level, right? And know like what is causing inflammation on them because what might be anti-inflammatory for me might be super inflammatory for you. And the only way to do that is to test at the end of the day. But as we all know, testing costs money. And
And
it's
when you say
whether
testing, it's
the
bloods.
what's yeah, blood and fecal.
Okay.
Blood and fecal. And that's a whole nother thing too, is like, taking an athlete and be like, hey, like, we gotta test your fecal matter. And by the way, like, I need your help with this. There's some there's a little bit of drawback on that depending on the athlete.
So, because you've had this done recently,
Yeah, I did it a couple months ago.
talk to me about the kind of process and what that involves and the outcomes that you got, because that might be interesting for people looking into this.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll just, N of one experiment on myself. I'm getting older. All right. I'm 35 now, and I've been working out like crazy. And I was like, man, kind of the same thing I just discussed. I was like, why am I not getting where I want to be? Like, I feel like I'm sleeping well. I feel like I'm working out hard. I'm trying to train for a marathon. Like I'm doing like all these things, but I'm not getting where I need to be. So I reached out to who I think is one of the top practitioners in America. Her name's Maggie Awad, based out of Dallas. She's incredible. Um, and she put me through the whole ringer of testing. Started off with blood work, then I did fecal matter. Blood work actually came out really well. There were no bad signs on there at all. And then we got the fecal test back, and we found out that I have like little things like beginning level like SIBO. I found out that I had. Well, I guess on the blood work, I
What's
found
that?
out
What's
that I
that,
had like
Tyler?
SIBO is like an overgrowth of bacteria within your gut. So this can become very, very problematic if it goes untreated. Um, And again, this is why, like, the only way to know is the test, right? I thought I was out here, eating really well, doing everything right, but not pretty much. So, just really important to like test yourself. When I did get the blood work back on myself, I found out that I have a sensitivity to beef and dairy. So I cut out dairy cold turkey. I thought it was going to be a lot harder than I expected, but like I completely cut it out. And then honestly, from there, that's when I started actually feeling what I thought was like even better. Like I started sleeping way better. I started losing that little ring of fat around my abdomen a lot easier. So um, just things like that. Um, and like I've definitely reduced the amount of beef that I've been bringing in. And yeah, it's been an interesting kind of self-study that I know like a lot of the athletes that I work with and continue to work with, like uh they all need to do this, because now that I know like what causes inflammation for me, I need to stay away with, because I mean we all do it, right? First thing, get up, I want coffee, put a little bit of creamer in there. Well, the first thing I'm doing is putting inflammation in my body, right? Because I'm putting dairy in. So that's just the worst way to start the day off, And there's been little ways I can navigate that now, and it's been a good little start to a journey for me.
Nice. We spoke a little bit about this last week when we spoke, but in terms, and not going back to the research and maybe hit on that too heavily, but I think there's a place for it. Um, Validated gut health markers that we should be aware of, or practitioners should be aware of when working with short-term, long-term rehabbers that they could be focused on to optimize their rehab.
Yep. So there's a couple big ones. One, zonulin, uh, crazy word, but yeah, zonulin. It's a protein that modulates the tight junctions within that gut lining. So when I was just talking about the selective passage, more or less of things kind of coming in and out of our gut barrier or our gut lining, zonulin is what keeps it tight. It doesn't allow toxins to come in. So obviously, why that matters is if you have an elevated zonulin or fecal zonulin, it suggests that our intestinal permeability is linked to a higher level of systemic inflammation, and that in itself can repair recovery. There's something called fecal protectin, which is another protein marker of neutrophil activity within the gut, and that indicates intestinal inflammation. So that's something that you can check out. And when you get that, it's kind of shows like whether we have significant GI stress, and consistent and persistent elevated signals. Show that we're not absorbing nutrients like we need to, and really, so then we're not healing like we need to. Lipopolysaccharide, LPS, and then there's something called LPS binding protein. This is a bacterial toxin. It's a gram-negative bacteria, which reflects our exposure to our immune system exposure to this bacteria. High levels of that showed that we have a compromised gut barrier, and showed that, we have again, increased systemic inflammation and delayed tissue healing. And then, like, this is a easy one. It's not specific to gut health, but it's highly relevant in the context of gut-derived inflammation in that C-reactive protein, or HSCRP, and that just shows that there's an ongoing, like, inflammation. And again, like, if you go out and you get your blood work done, oftentimes, like, you're not testing for gut health specifically, but you might get a general WBC result back, and it might be a little bit higher with your CRP. It's not going to be like crazy high, but it might be higher than normal, and it's something to kind of keep an eye on, because that in itself can show that you might have some gut inflammation going on. Then there's like some other things, you always check like your short chain fatty acids, like butyrate, acetate. Butyrate, I think, is the future of like cancer prevention. That's a key word for me, and a hot topic. Um, and then the last one for like the fecal stuff would be like fecal secretory IgA is what it is, and that's antibody for gut mucosa. So again, kind of indicating that that gut barrier is intact. So, and the lower levels of that can reflect impaired mucosal immunity. So that's really where all that comes in. And at the end of the day, the worse your gut barrier is, the worse you can recover.
And daily stuff, like even if you're not, well, I suppose we're always recovering from something, but
Always.
like daily things like mood and motivation, are these kind of things also linked to gut health and things like that? And what other kind
One
of things,
thousand percent.
daily things that we're kind of battling with, whether we're an athlete or not an athlete, is all this kind of linked to gut health as well?
Stress, anxiety, cognitive function, the ability to make decisions. I mean, at the end of the day, the gut-brain axis that we have within our body is it's a bi-directional, like, highway. That's the best way to think about it. Okay, our vagal nerve, we all know, goes brain down, and it directly speaks to our gut. It's just a major highway for these two systems. But when the gut is inflamed, the immune and the microbial signals can travel via that vagal nerve, which influences our brain chemistry and our stress response. The inflammation can really disrupt like the neurotransmitter production, like our serotonin, our dopamine. It increases our stress hormones. It'll trigger neuroinflammation, all of which are tracked back to that anxiety, that depression, our cognitive changes. And, they're starting to see, uh, between like our prefrontal cortex and our amygdala, right? It's like shutting that down. Like we're not being able to make decisions as quick, or uh, really at all. And what's causing that is all this neural inflammation. And as a result of that, you get the chronic gut inflammation, and that has a direct impact on uh, our mental health and mood. And it's just and the flip side of that is, when you are anxious, when you are having, you know, just like all this neural inflammation, the problem is then you just want to do something that's easy. You want to eat something that's easy. It doesn't like it makes you want to just, like, I don't want to say just be lazy, but like you're not going to go cook yourself like the most like anti-inflammatory meal, right? Like when you're stressed, we've all been like this, right? You're like, just grab some chips, some salsa, like start eating it or something like that, right? But then what you realize is that you end up causing more gut inflammation, and then it becomes like this big cycle, right? To where like you're causing gut inflammation, that's causing brain inflammation, which is causing more or which is causing you some type of action, and then rinse, wash, repeat, right? So that's just kind of it's an interesting cycle that we get in.
So for those that, which is probably majority of people, can't afford the assessments, whether it's the fecal assessments or
Yep.
the bloods, what low hanging fruit is there in terms of interventions to kind of get ahead of this, make some improvements?
So Two easy ones, honestly, that I find. Well, I guess three, if you can. Uh, Fasting, which I know is people don't like in the world of athletes, but if fasting for up to 12 to 14 hours, we know helps heal and seal our gut lining, right? And obviously, everybody wants to do this at night when they sleep. Um, but like, definitely eating or not eating 3 hours before bed and getting a good night's sleep. We know that that is an easy way to kind of heal your gut lining. Um, and then again, making the right food choice immediately after, like either when you wake up or whenever you decide to eat. That's like the easiest one that we can kind of do to help prevent inflammation. Another one, full body cold water immersion. Okay, it doesn't have to be that long, but we know that that also helps our gut lining as well. The third one, and this is actually stressful with our in for our system, but it actually helps in the long term, is sauna. We know that sauna helps a lot. So I'm a big fan of obviously cold water immersion and sauna, and the reason why is because they're both on both ends of the spectrum when it comes to like the recovery spectrum, right? One hot, one cold, and it stresses our gut and our body to such extreme that our body has to work to bring it back to homeostasis. And then same thing on the vice versa. So those are like the three easy ones that you can do as an intervention. Um, Fast, cold water immersion. And I'm not talking about like just putting your foot in, like get in there up to here, and then sauna, 20 to 30 minutes. And if you can do those things just a couple times a day, like you can make a pretty significant impact on your gut health for sure.
And when it comes to athletes, apart from the fasting, the saunas and the cold water immersion are things that they could be doing anyway for recovery, general recovery. So it's not as if it's and something added potentially.
Yeah, I mean, our athletes should, in my opinion, should be doing this like nonstop anyway, right? Just as a general kind of recovery. And then for our athletes, depending on how deep they really want to take it, right? Like the easiest thing is for me to sit here and say like eat healthy foods, but again, we can't even get into like saying eat healthy foods because what might be healthy for me again might not be healthy for you, right? Tomatoes can be very anti or can be very inflammatory for some people, right? But like it it's not for me, but it could be like crushing you or like one of my athletes, and we're sitting here going like, well, this is grown from the earth, and why is this like it's not made in a plant or come from a box or anything like that. But again, it's just we're all so unique and um that's why that like testing is so critical. And the easiest way to do it is to journal, right? Like keep a log. This is what I ate. This is how I felt, later that day. I felt like I hit a wall at 2 p.m. Uh, I slept like crap last night. Just logging these different things and then really kind of doing a reductionist diet and going, okay, like we're gonna pull this out next time. We're gonna pull this out and kind of uh, seeing how that athlete adapts. And again, that's the easiest way to do it for someone with no budget, right? Just it's trial and error, and eventually you kind of hone in on like, okay, like I ate this, I felt really well, and then you kind of just hone in on those certain things.
I'm guessing the majority of people out there, especially people in your position or working at the level that you are doing wellness questionnaires, but they might be limited to 5 questions, 6 questions, and be quite general
Yeah.
mood, feeling. When it comes to this kind of
Yep.
stuff, do we need to get more specific to actually get the information that we need to make those decisions and increase maybe the effectiveness of those interventions?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have one-on-one conversations constantly with these guys. It can't be. You're not going to get this type of information from a wellness questionnaire. And you're sure as hell not going to get it from the 18-year-old freshman that just came walking through the door, right? Because they don't care. They're probably not going to care about doing the wellness questionnaire, but two, they're just gonna this is what you see a lot in college athletes. Like they're good, especially now that they all have money. an obscene amount of money with an 18 to 20-year-old, they're just going to go out and buy whatever they want anyway for from a food standpoint. So at least from our end, it's like control what you can control, right? When they are in the building, I want to make sure that they eat as well as that they can, right? Like, let's provide the most optimal food for them to help control what they can, knowing that they're probably going to hit a fast food joint tonight or gonna go hit something. But it's like, control what we can control within those variables, and then hopefully we can have the conversations, sit them down. Look, this is what's happening every time you eat poorly, and this is why you're not recovering from an ankle sprain that should have only taken 10 days, but now we're on 3 weeks. You know, once you highlight it like that and you really bring it to their attention of, look, you're not getting the strength gains that you want. This is why you're getting pushed around on the block. Like, these are the things that are now going to cost you money, because at the end of the day, until it rings up here, that hey, like, this is going to affect dollars and cents, and we're not going to pay you next year because we're going to pay somebody else that's going to come in and do all the things right. um that's really how you get through to these athletes. It's almost like you got to talk dollars and cents with them, and the sooner that you can highlight that to them, the sooner they realize it.
Amazing. You're speaking in LA for our Return to Play conference. So your
Yep.
talk is sponsored by the guys at Vald, so I appreciate their contribution, their involvement. You're going to talk about the tissue capacity umbrella. It gives a bit of an insight into what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, so this is again something that I think that like athletic trainers kind of miss through our general ATEP programs, and it's so simple and so basic. But I want to talk about pretty much baseline testing, doing things that are may or may not quite involve sports science, because that's the world we live in now. But say you have a secondary school athletic trainer who has zero sports science, but things that you can do and test for your athletes, just say for like a return to play for an ankle sprain, right? Have them do the test, say the athlete gets injured, and now they drop down within that number, and then that's now your tissue capacity umbrella, right? And doing the things to kind of work back up to the return to play aspect. So that's really going to kind of be like the big push behind it. um, and it's going to be give quick, actionable examples that we can use in everyday setting and scenarios, so that our athletes can, or excuse me, so that we can monitor our athletes and then have objective data to tell the coach, to tell the athlete, to reaffirm to ourselves that they may or may not be ready for uh, returning to activity, or are they doing everything right, but they're still not hitting the markers that we want them to see, or that we want to see. So that is the going to be the big vocal push behind the talk. So looking forward to that for sure.
Nice. So that is 27th to 29th of June at the Intuit in LA. However, you've got your own prior to that at UCLA. Talk to us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, super small conference that I just decided to host. How this whole thing worked out was, I had a couple buddies around here say, let's all get together for a networking deal, like, and just talk shop. And somebody mentioned like, oh, hey, you should speak. And I was like, I don't want to speak. Let's get someone else to speak. And then it just kind of slowly snowballed, and it turned into something that is now known as Escalate Sports Medicine Performance Summit. So bring in a lot of great speakers: Danny Foley, Maggie Awad, Maggie Bryant from the Clippers, Powell Bernhard from the Wizards, Jess Ellis. I mean, the list kind of goes on and on. And just a little weekend at UCLA where I'm hosting it, in Pauley Pavilion. Um, we're also having an awesome Friday night social hosted by a group called Clear Advantage. Highly recommend. It's this new technology of assessing brain. If we're doing brain assessments through uh, through movements. It's probably it's almost like something you see out of Iron Man, to where it's like a skull cap that people can wear, and you're seeing real time brain activity and what is working in the brain and what isn't through movement. So just say you're going through the rehab process, and I guess, you're noticing that this part of the brain is not firing. Well, now they have a way to kind of get that to get your brain to fire and start signaling the movement that needs to happen. So that's our Friday night like social. And free drinks, free food, open bar, um, free food all weekend. It's gonna be fun. There's only 120 spots, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Where can people find out more, Tyler?
EscalateLA.com
Perfect.
is where all the info, and then my Instagram. That's all I post about now, pretty much. So Dr. T Lash, that's all I do on there, pretty much now.
Nice, mate. And if people want to jump in and double team that with the Sportsmith conference,
Yeah, absolutely,
sportsmith.co/events. So lots going on in LA as usual in this industry. But yeah,
always.
thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Look forward to meeting you in person in
Can't
June,
wait.
and we'll keep in touch. Oh yeah, you mentioned your Instagram. Is Instagram the best place? LinkedIn,
Yeah,
Twitter?
yeah, yeah. I don't even know if I have Twitter, LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Really active on there. Definitely active on Instagram. So, yeah, reach out, Dr. Tilesh.
nice. Tyler, thank you for your time. Sorry it's taken so long to line up, but I appreciate you coming on, and
Glad
thank
we
you for
did
your
it.
patience. Thanks, mate. Speak soon.
Thank you. Take care.